I've got this fabulous saturated Canary image, and I actually took 2 of the images and I placed them together, and I did this on Photoshop, but any editing software or even probably a Windows viewer will do that easily enough. So as usual, I'm starting off with the skin. Now in this case there's obviously more skin than normal because they're wearing their bikinis, so I'm going to start with the faces, and I've picked up my Copics, but of course you could easily do this using your pro markers or anything like this, but it's the alcohol markers that I've gone for here. And I've picked up my normal skin tones, but I've got the 1 shade darker, so I'm going to just see if I can take them just a little bit darker so they look like they've, you know, started to get a bit of a suntan. So, but I'm going to start with the mid dark, which is the E11, and then I'll go darker after I've done that first kind of sort of flush of the colour and just add the darker tones in. So let's just go round, so creating where there would be shadow, which is kind of under where her hair would be, down the edge of the nose here, in the eye sockets obviously, and round the cheek here and under her chin. So then taking the E00 and then just blending that in. And it doesn't matter if you go over the lips, because the lips have got that colour underneath their skin after all said and done, and you'll add some pink to that afterwards. So I'm just going to blend that bit in there to there, because I shouldn't have done under her neck. And let's just do this darker areas. Okay, so now I'm going to take this darker one, which is E13, and just add in some darker areas to get that slightly more tanned effect, hopefully. Okay, and then I'm going to take the next one down to start blending that through, and that's the E11. And then my E00, just again, just to finalise that blend. And so you can see, I mean, she's always going to look a bit darker on the camera till it settles down, but, and then I'm going to do the same under the chin here and this area here. And there's quite a lot of darker sections on there, because she isn't exactly a small girl. So we'll just take that there, so she'd have got some nice tan in that area. Okay, so I'm happy with her face, so I'm just going to move down now to the arm area. And with this I am going to go straight in with the dark colour, because I'm happy that I'm actually going to have to turn it, I'm afraid, because I can't see and I don't want the light to shadow for you. Okay, so probably the back of the arm here and the muscle area would be the darker section, and obviously in between the fingers here, and then the next darkest down, almost going over the same area really on that one. And then my palest colour. And again, just adding some tone in there to give us some shape. Whoops, nearly used the wrong one. And there we go. And then we're going to do her stomach area. Now she looks like she's a nice fit young lady, so I'm going to start with the mid-tone here just to help myself out a little bit with the areas to colour. So this is going to be down here, around the back part here, and around here. It's going to be darker. Let's colour that middle piece in. And then we're going to take our darker tone and then the mid-tone again, which is E11, and then our pale E00. And that just adds a little softness as well to that. Sorry, I just realised I was covering that up. Okay, happy with that. And as it dries, it will soften down a bit more. But you know, she is out on the beach and she's going to be tanned. I'm going to do this one slightly paler because like she's not been there as long, maybe, or she doesn't tan. I don't know. Well, she's not going to be exactly the same because otherwise that would be a bit boring. So again, with the mid-tone here, I'm just... So it's mainly at the back of the leg is the darker tone, and then I'll do our pale. And then the very dark tone. Again. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm slightly out of the picture for you there. And then of the other leg, obviously this area here is going to be quite dark because it's very much in the shadow. And then our more mid-tone, and then our pale shade. Just going to be more at the front here. There we go. Right, so I do want to just clean up where I just slightly went over some edges here. Well, I didn't let colour leak a little, so we'll just clean that up with our blender pen. Tidy that line up as well. And then in here, and this is just because I'm adding a lot of colours and I'm not letting them dry or anything, I'm just going straight ahead, so it's getting quite a lot of ink on there, but it's no biggie. And also I probably wasn't being as careful as I could be. I'm at quite a strange angle, so I can't see as well as I'd like to. There we go. Now I want to just take this lovely R20, which is a really nice blush, and add this to her cheeks, just to get some blush into her cheeks and make her look like she's having a really nice healthy glow there. Now normally I'd need to blend that in, but because she's already quite dark from the tan, sorry guys, I don't need to do that. I'm on the wrong side of the camera and I can't see the bit that tells me whether you guys can see or not, and I keep forgetting, so sorry about that. We'll just tidy that up where it went messy into the hair. Lovely. Okay, and then I want obviously a colour for her lips, so I'm just going to clean these off a little bit with my blender pen because I had quite a dark colour on there. Okay, so we'll come back to that in a minute. I'm not going to do her as dark, but I am going to be using this darker colour. I'm just not going to be using as much. So just around the edges here, and then down the side of her nose, and then the second dark colour, which is E11. Again, just around. Now a little bit more of that one because obviously she doesn't want to be completely pale. Like that. And over the eyebrows here. And then the palest colour. I'm trying not to go too much over the colours that are already there, because if you do that too much it pushes that colour away, which can be good, but sometimes you want it to stay. And I've just gone over the line there, so just blending that in. Okay, so I think she could go just a little bit more, so let's just add a little bit more colour, just a little. As I say, we don't want her as dark, but we don't want her so pale that she looks ridiculous next to her friend. She doesn't want to be jealous, does she? Oh, I went the wrong way. Oh, that was close. So that was the mid colour that I used just then. My mistake, I picked that up first. Okay, so going back to the E11 now. And then our pale E00, and we'll just blend that in a little so that, as I say, she's not as tanned, but she's still got some colour to her. And then of course the cheeks we'll do at the end. Oh, I forgot the other young lady's hand. Look, her arm just in there. We'll do that while we've got this here, because I don't want to accidentally do her too pale. This would be pretty dark in there. So that's the mid one. And then here's the dark colour. And again back then with the palest, just on the top, like so. There we go. Okay, so that's her complete. And now going back to this one. Ooh, I need the dark one, which is E13. So we're going to do under her chin, this area here, in there, and then over her shoulders would be darker. And then taking our E11, and then our E00, just to blend that all in. Like so. Okay, so far so good, happy with that. So now I'm going to take this one and just do her arm over here. So by doing it a slightly different colour, it will hopefully make it clear whose is who as well. There we go, and a slight overlap just here, so just tidy that up. And here, there we go. And now we're going to be doing this one's tummy, but I think actually I'll do her arm first because I don't want to forget it. Okay, so it's going to be quite dark under there, I would say, because of her hair, and the same here. The mid-tone. pale one just to finish. Okay, so now going to E13 again. We're going to just go down the centre here and on the line of her bikini bottoms, down the edge here and under her bikini. And this is E13, and now we're going to E11. Okay, and then E00 just to finish off. So as you can see, she's not like completely white, but I have to say it looks quite different on the screen, on your camera to what it does on here. But she's not completely white, but she's not like ridiculously brown like the other girl. Well, she's not ridiculously brown, but you know what I mean. Or maybe she is. There we go. That just gives us some definition on her body as well in this shape. So now to the legs. So I'm going to do this front leg first. So again, under the bikini bottoms, the little shorts, like so. So around the back she'll be darker here and not so much here, I don't think. Okay, and then our mid-tone. And then our pale tone. Just blend this mid one in a bit, hit the dark one here with the mid-tone because it's looking a bit sharp. And then we'll take this one again, the pale one. So you're just building up the layering really, just to see what you like. Because she's going to be sort of the lightest at the front here. And let's just take this one. I need to put some lines across where it's a bit sharp, that blend. That's better. Oh, it's here, and it's just missing the dark up there now on this back line. Okay, that's fine. And then the other leg, which obviously was standing behind this one, so it's going to be a lot darker here. And then the E11. And then I'm not unhappy with it. I want the dark one again just to darken up this inside bit here. a little bit of definition. There we go. And same on this young lady, just a little definition, I think. Okay. It looks really peculiar on the camera. Okay, so that's all that. I'm gonna just add the pink to this one here, cheeks. I have to say I can't remember the names, so we're just adding pink to her cheeks here. Like so, very cute. And I just want to tidy up any areas like on her bikini here. Okay, so for this one here's lips, I'm going to use this darker R56, and this is just a more sort of natural lip, maybe with a little bit of gloss or something, or a bit of colour on. And for the other one, I'm going to do the E04, which is just a slightly softer colour, and I'm just going to add a bit of pink to that as well, a bit more pink. Let's get this one here, which is RV11. Next, let's try RV14. That's better. There we go, RV14. I just went outside the line. There's my colour. So just using the actual colour of the skin, I'm just going to push that pink that came out of the line just back in. And that'll be fine. And then just taking my 00 just to blend this area up again where it came unblended. There we go. So that's looking good. Now we need to give them some coloured eyes, obviously. Can't just... So let's go. I think this young lady here, I'm going to make a blonde. So I'm going to give her just baby blue eyes. Beautiful blue. So let's see what these two are like. Yes, so I've got BG05 and BG01. So I'm just taking the BG05 to the edges here, and then taking the 01 and blending that into where the light area is. By just taking it down each side just a little bit, and then the other colour just blending up to where that white is, like so. And then just taking a white gel pen, just use that to add extra highlight to the eye, so to make it stand out a bit better. Highlight. It always looks a bit better. And I often do this after as well, when I've done the I put glossy accents almost always on their eyes, and I do it after, and it looks really effective. Okay, I'm going to keep those two colours out because I might like to use that for her hairband or something. And then for the other eyes, I think I fancy doing her with nice dark brown eyes, I think. So I've got E37 and E49. So E49 is my dark colour, so it's very dark, so I don't want very much of that. And then taking this paler brown, taking that down, and then the same on the other side, just a little bit of the dark. You could do it more if that's what you like. And then the paler brown. And you kind of just overlap the area that's the darker brown to blend it in, and it just gives life and movement to the eyes as you work on them. And then we're going to get our gel pen and do the same again on this one. So just a little dot, and then dot and a bit there. Okay, so I think that looks really cool. Next thing I want to do is add a little bit of makeup to their eyes. So I've got just a dark, very soft black pencil, and I'm just going to very carefully, I need to work out which angle I need this, that's it. Just going over the eyelid area in a line, getting slightly fatter as you would do towards the outer corner, and then underneath the eye as well. There we go, so you can see the difference, and it actually makes quite a difference to her eye. And then I need to turn this the other way so that I can get the angle how I need it. I just find it easier like that. And the other thing is, the beauty of it being pencil, of course, is that if you do go wrong, you can just erase it at least. There we go. So that's her with some makeup on, and you can see it just looks really effective. And then we're going to do the same on little Miss Blue Eyes over here. There we go. Looks good, I think. Okay, so that's that bit done. Okay, so now I'm going to do this one's bikini, and as I said to you, I wanted to use the blues, so I thought I'd go for blue and yellow, which would be quite fun, but I'm not going to do too much blue. I'm going to do the stars in the blue, so I'm going to put the blue in first and then add the yellow in afterwards. I think that would be easier. So let's get the darker part of the blue. And I know it is hard to do blending on little stars and things like that, but it is worth doing because it does make a difference. And then I want to do the blue and yellow stripes, so I'm just looking on here. Blue, 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 blue. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want to do the second one in, really. So let's get both lids off. So I'm going to start from the second one in here. So the top and the bottom are going to be slightly darker on each one. So we'll just do that bit first, and then we'll come back and we'll do the middle section. I'm just blending it down. Like so, and then I'm just going to put extra highlight on here. Okay, and then to the middle here. Oh, wrong colour. Let's just do that. And then the next one is here, and then here. we could leave that as just blue and white, but I think it'd just be quite fun to have the yellow on there as well. Again, I'm just going to add a small amount of extra strong blue at the edges just to give it a finishing touch. I just think that works. Okay, so then we're going to do, oh, that was BG05 and BG01 as we did on the eyes. And then I've got, for the yellows, I've got Y18 and Y02. So let's do the stripes first, I think, because I think that would be easier. So we're going to do Y18, which is the darker colour. Now this one here is going to be pretty much all dark, I think. I think that's really fun. I'm just going to be careful to make sure it doesn't turn green, because we mix the two together too much or anything. And I'll go back and add the extra dark pieces in a minute of the darker yellow. Okay, and then just going along here, adding that little extra touch. There we go. I think that looks really cool, like that. And then I'm going to do her bikini top, so it's going to be darker, obviously, under here where her little boobies are creating a shadow, and then lighter on the rest of it, really, I would say. Just being careful to, on here where her hair, and just being careful not to go over the stars, because you'll create a green bikini instead of a yellow. I'm just going to use the other end. Very carefully just go over that strap to create a hint of yellow on the strap there. Okay, so that is our bikini on that side, and I think that looks really nice. I'm pleased with that. For the other bikini, I was thinking of these nice pinks. I've got RV29 and RV25, both really nice colours. So let's start with the RV25, and to be honest, she hasn't got a lot of bikini to work with, has she? So okay, let's make myself some space here. So under, that looks like the paler one, hold on. Yeah, I meant to start with the RV29. So under her arm here, it's going to be darker, and then under her little boobie here, and in there as well. Okay, and then going in with our paler colour. Like so, and then just going back. I just want to take that down a bit if it will go. That's it. And then just going back in with our darker colour on here just to accent these areas. Like so. Okay, I think that looks cool. Nice colour on her, I think. And then going for our darker colour again, making sure which one it is. Right, we're going to just go in here, be darker, and then to the paler colour. And then I'm going to use the darker colour for our bows, and I'm going to actually turn it over and use the pointy end, because it will be easier, I think, just to, actually no it won't, let's go back to what I was doing, So I'm just using very fine point here, going over her little ties like so. And the reason I'm using the darker colour is because it's such a small area. I think it'll show up better. Okay, so that's her bikini done. And then while I've got this colour in my hand, I'm going to use the RV29 for the little cherry on top of our ice cream. There we go. And I will also use the yellow that we had for the actual ice cream itself. Because that will bring that colour in, and I'll use more of the paler colour than the darker colour, but let's just take a little drip here, a little like so, and that just makes it kind of all blend together a little bit. And then I'm going to take my blender pen and just blend that in so that softens that all down nicely, and it blends that last area. Like so. Okay, and then the other thing that we've got while we're here that will work, I think, is we've got the darker brown that we use for the skin tone, which we can use for the corner. And so we'll just use that. And I'm going to, again, soften that down using my blender pen. So it's a very pale colour. There we go. Like so. So that's that bit done. So I think all we're missing now is their hair, and the little hairbands, and I'm going to do those now because I know what will happen. Forget to put them in. So a little pink one there for her, and a blue one in hers. So we can use both colours on hers because it's a bit bigger. So the darker bit down there and through there, and then like so. So I've picked some colours for this one's hair. I'm going to do her blonde. Now I'm not sure of the combination yet. I'm still working on a nice combination for blonde's hair, sort of more the more kind of yellowy blondes rather than the ashy blondes. But at the moment I've picked up E50, E53 and Y21 just to add a bit more warmth to it. So we'll see how this goes. So we're going to start off with our E53, which is the darkest of the colours. So let's just go down, I think, on this section here, because at least then if it's absolutely dreadful I can do something about it. It's not finished. Okay. I think the problem quite often is you go too dark as well if you're not careful. And the other thing is that you don't actually have a contrast in there, so it kind of disappears a bit, which is what happened just there. There's not enough of a line. So let me just pick something else up here and see. Okay, so I've picked up YR24. So let's just see. This might make it more. It just needs a bit of contrasting in there, so it's just a case of just trying to be careful. So we'll just play and we'll see what we get here. And this obviously in here is going to be dark compared, and then I'm going to go straight to our Y21, get the yellowy tones in there. Okay, to go to our E50 just to finish off in that area in there. Yeah, I'm liking that as a blonde. I think that's working for me. I wanted something quite simple. And then the other thing I quite often do is I go through with my blender pen just to add some sort of stripy bits in there to give the contrast. Because sometimes you end up with it just being a bit, as I said, one-dimensional if you're not careful. Okay, I'm happy with that. So the colours I've ended up using are Y24, Y21 and E50. Okay, so we've dumped our E53. So let's now go to our Y24 because we're going to do this next section here. So it's quite dark in here, and obviously it's going to be darker in here, but less so here. And now, because I'm not really trying to blend this particularly, I'm wanting it to be almost liney, so I'm not too worried about it drying. So I'm quite happy to go down the whole of the ponytail here. Okay, and then I'm going to do my Y21 back at the top here. And then finally my E50. And you could even leave white sections on this because it's blonde hair. It's often you have really pale parts. Okay, and then I'm just going to go in with my blender pen and just add a little bit more definition to these pale areas. And sometimes, as I say, if you go in over the area that's dark, you add a bit of definition and striping, that you kind of want that kind of look. And then I'm just going to go back over this bit at the top here and get, again, just a little bit of definition in here. And by using this at the end of the pen, I always find that often works quite well, because you can get quite a firm stroke, so you can often get a nice line. So I do quite like using that part of the pen. Okay. And then just doing the yellow with exactly the same. And then finally I'm going to go in with my blender pen and just take now some of the pale colour, I'm just going to make it a bit paler, just to add that extra bit of definition. So any areas you think should have been pale that didn't get it paled up, or like here if you want to add a bit of sort of definition in those dark areas, because sometimes in the small designs it disappears a bit. And there we go. I think that looks really good. Pleased with that. And I really wanted that more yellow blonde, so that's a really good combination. I'm going to write that down to remember what it is, because I'm pleased with that combination. And there's a fault on the print there. So, oh no, it's a bit of hair. So stupid. So let's just gently cover that with some yellow, and the same down here, so it kind of looks more like that. There we go. Alright, so then for this lady I wanted to do a dark colour, like a darker brown. Okay, so I'm not sure how this will work, but I've picked out 3 colours, E18, E09 and E15. So I'm going to try these. So the darkest one is, I think, the E18, so let's start with that. Okay, so where to start on her hair? Okay, let's start here at the roots and work our way across. So I'm just going to do this section into the little ponytail here, and then I want E09, which is a much reddier colour, and then E15, which is a more lighter brown tone, and then I'm going to go back with my, and then I'm going to try E79 just to add a, so I want it a bit darker than that. And I might actually drop the pale brown, which was the E15, so let's pop that down for the minute, out the way, because I don't think that was quite what I was after. And I want to go back to my reddier colour, which is E09, and put some more of that in. I like that colour. Okay, and then we can go back afterwards using the blender pen, etc. So we'll get to that in a minute. But now let's do, so underneath her ponytail here, it's going to be a lot darker. So I'm not actually doing the ponytail, the little pony there. And then the copper colour, so it's just trying to pick out really the sort of sections that are likely to be lighter and darker, etc., which isn't completely easy. I've got E18 here as well. Because it's curly hair, you could be precise and you could, you know, fiddle around and really get it absolute, but I'm quite happy just doing it this way, where it's a little bit more random, not getting so hung up on, oh, that curl is a shadow and all of that. It looks fine, in my opinion, anyway. So I'm just doing what I think looks good. As long as it's defined, then who cares? Okay, and then I'll just go back in with my red. And as I said, I'm going to go back over this with the blender pen anyway, and lighten some of this up if I need to, and also go back over the sections to put the darker sections in, like up here. I want some more defining lines just in here. There we go, and then I'm actually not even, I'm really mainly using E09 and E79. I'm not really using a lot of the other one either. Okay. And what I need is It sounds crazy, but I need a little bit of black. And the reason I need that is just to add a little definition down here onto this area so that we can really catch where those curls are. And again, we're going to blend that all down anyway with our blender pen. But without all of that, you lose some of the shape. Okay, so now we're going to go over to the ponytail over here. So I'm just going to do this bit here, the ponytail. So just there is going to be dark, but the rest I think will be pretty pale. Because it's kind of coming out into the sun there. Okay, so then again just doing a little bit in there just to add a bit of shadow and contrast. And then we're going to do this section on the top here. There's a little piece here, so we'll just go in there. That's going to be pretty dark, I reckon. And we'll add our coppery tones to it. And then this section seems to be part of our ponytail a little bit. Okay, and then we're coming round to this top bit. Okay, so that's going to be darker here. And even to the point of using the black, I think, if we're careful. And the black isn't there to make it look black, it's there to give the emphasis on the shapes, just to help, because you lose it when you have the dark colours, so it's just for that purpose really. Okay, looking good, pleased with that. So now we're just going to go over to the other side. So we're going to do that little bit that's coming down her face. So that would be darker at the roots here. And then this bit will be sort of more coppery down onto her face. And then just going back over this root area a little bit. And then in there is going to be dark. And this piece is copper. And then down here, it's not going to be too dark in here because there's quite a lot of light on that section. And then I'm just going to go through with my black. So like here is a darker section, and in here, just to highlight where that's separated. And then in here, whoops, we just went on her shoulder, so I need my skin tone just to push that off the shoulder. take our copper colour and just bring that over the shoulder as if it's meant to be hair there. Who's going to know? Only you'll know now. You guys won't tell on me, will you? Okay, so that's all of that done, but now we're just going to take the blender pen through, and this is when I think it makes quite a big difference. So I'm taking this end, no I'm not, I'm going to, whoops, take the other end of my blender pen, and I'm literally now just going to go in and create some lighter areas. So like in this ponytail area, we're going to make that stand out a little bit more. Okay, so now we've finished all our colouring, so the last thing I need to do before we make this into an actual card is I just want to take my glossy accents and put those on a few different places. Just blobbing down onto the eye, and then I just use a tweezer or something just to move the glossy accent into place, because sometimes if you try and do it just using the nozzle, it just makes a big awful mess. Like so. And the other thing I always like to do is their lips. So again, I just take a tiny blob and then use my tweezers or some sort of tool just to move it around. And then on the other lips. And if they're really small, because you've done a picture that's a bit smaller than this, then just pop a little bit on the end of a tool and just do it that way. And then the other thing I want to do is a little bit on that cherry, like so, to make it look exciting. And actually I want to put some on the ice cream as well. And while we're on the ice cream, okay, I've got some little bit of blue glitter here, and I'll just shake it on the top there. So it looks like kind of hundreds and thousands on the top of our ice cream there, so that's kind of cute. And then I think, oh yes, and I wanted to just put a little bit of glossy accents on the hairband, just to give it a bit of emphasis again. This one I don't need to really do with the tweezers, I'll just tidy it up if it needs it. Okay, and then I did it on this one again, just there we go. So now that's those ladies all coloured in, so we're going to leave that glossy accents tool dry, and I think they look absolutely gorgeous. So I'll leave that to dry, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the finished card. Okay, so here's the finished card, and I'm really pleased with it. I really think it looks ever so nice. It came out a lot better than I was hoping, actually, so it's always nice when that happens. When I was doing this, I was thinking to myself that it would be quite nice to cut them out, fussy cut them, and create a scene, but I wasn't quite sure exactly what to do. And then I had this stamp set from Pink by Design, and it's her beach one, Sandy Toes it's called, and I started stamping out some different bits and pieces, so that started getting me some ideas. So I stamped out this You and Me, and the Friends to the End part is actually from a paper tray ink stamp, and then I stamped out this one. I did a happy birthday from, again, a paper tray ink, and then I put hope your special days are buckets of fun, and that's on the inside, which I'll show you in a minute. And it just started me thinking, and I remembered that I had some Anna Griffin stuff that was from her sea and beach and kind of holiday collection. There was papers and rub-ons and stickers and all sorts of stuff, and I found a sheet of the rub-ons, which you can see I've now hacked, and I cut out a few bits. I actually cut out the deck chair as well, but I didn't use that in the end. And I also found the borders rub-ons, and I cut this border up and just cut a few of these off as well. But originally my plan was just to do blue and white, simple, and then put the border along the bottom of all the seashells, and put a sentiment on. But then as I say, I found the other set of rub-ons, and it got me thinking, well, this palm tree, it would make a really nice scene, and the umbrella. And as I say, originally I'd got the deck chair in there. So it kind of just started to move kind of, as I cut these pieces out before I stuck them down, obviously very carefully, and I cut my girls out, and I started moving things around. And then I had put the blue and I put the yellow on, and I was thinking, well, they look really strange, these girls, because they haven't got legs. They'd kind of just stopped, which is fine, but when you're creating a scene, it kind of looked like they'd gone a bit weird. They were kind of just floating above the sand with no feet. It looked really strange. And that's when I suddenly thought the obvious thing was to create this sea. So I kind of placed it. I'd already done the blue and the yellow, and I used one of these rulers to create the wobbly edge, and I then had a bit more blue, so I thought, right, so I placed it just roughly on there to give myself an idea of what I thought it looked like. Again, fiddled around with where I could put the palm tree and the little umbrella, and it just kind of came together really kind of naturally. And as I say, just by doing a little step at a time, thinking, oh, maybe that bit, then that bit. And then the final thing was, after I placed the sentiment there. The reason the sentiment ended up there was because I actually had a blob of glue, and it made a bit of a mess, and it was okay, but it wasn't fantastic, so that was kind of where it ended up. But I actually really liked it. And then I thought, I bet if I cut these little bits up, that would look quite fun just to sit on the sand there. And then last of all, which I'm not sure if you can see, there we go, I just popped that in the corner saying surfs up. So I was really pleased with that. Oh, and the very last thing, sorry, was I used some pearlescent glue and then a bit of crystal glitter just to create like the little water, kind of little white parts of the sea, because obviously it's a tropical sea, so it's not going to have lots of white, it's just a gentle sea. So I thought that just looked really summery and gorgeous, and it's really nice as a friend's card, I think. And then on the inside, for the main card, as usual, I folded a coloured piece of card and had the colour on the inside. And I had this brand new set of, I bought a pack of satin cardstocks. Now if I just show you this one, this is just one to give you an example. You can see it's gorgeous. This is like an aqua greeny colour, and it's got this gorgeous satiny look to it, and it just comes up really nice. So I thought I'd use the yellow, fold it in half and have the colour on the inside, and that's what we did here. And then I just put a bit of washi tape down the bottom here and the same up the top. I again used my sentiment, matted it onto the blue, and then just put a pair of sunglasses down there that was part of the rub-ons again, and that says about hope your days, special days, buckets of fun, and all of that. So I just think that's come up really, really nice. I'm really, really pleased with it. And it's all kind of, the shiny bits are shiny even on the, oh, you won't see it now, on the little ice cream. And I love all this, and I don't know if you can see, but there's like another layer there, and the ladies and this layer of the sea are the only bits that are popped up, and as you can see, it's not even very much. So it's just to give them like a tiny bit, so they're sitting off, so it just gives that little bit of dimension, because otherwise if you don't sit them up a little bit, they look like they're standing next to the tree, and obviously that's false. It kind of makes your eye confused. So I think if you just do that a little bit, it looks just that bit better. So anyway, I hope you like this card as much as I do. As I say, I'm really pleased with it, so I'd love to hear your comments, and I will see you all again next time. Bye for now.